Driving to save the world from the evil Decepticons, the heroic Autobots are led by Optimus Prime. He's more than meets the eye. He's a Rohan in disguise.
Rohan? Who is this guy? Rohan? The one and only Rohan!
You have served the royalty well, my queen.
For the glory of the royalty!
Hey guys, welcome back to the corner. Thank you guys for the introduction as ever, my showhorts. And this week it is Hasbro Week on Rohan's Corner. Who would have thought it? Yes, it's Hasbro Week, and the reason for that is I've got two topics which I wish to discuss with you this week, which pertain to Hasbro, although the second topic is actually toy-wide. And as for the first topic, let's talk about the upcoming Transformers Bran Panel on the Hasbro PulseCon that was announced for the end of this month. This information, or this news, seems to have crept through the gaps a little bit in terms of the community. I've not seen lots of discussion out there, but Hasbro are announcing several things, including new Shattered Glass line figures and Transformers Legacy Evolution. Now this got me thinking, if they're doing this massive announcement and it's all around Transformers Legacy Evolution, is that the second part of the Transformers Legacy Trilogy? And if so, is Evolution being announced now, which kind of brings the curtain down on Legacy? And if that is the case, then what the hell is going on with the rest of the Legacy line? I mean, we've had, 3 waves of Deluxes and Voyagers and possibly 3 waves of Leaders as well, but if we look at the Leaders, we've only actually had 2 new molds in the Scourge/Laser Prime mold, a reissue of Kingdom Galvatron with fixes, and also the Blitzwing mold, which is new, obviously. In terms of the Deluxes, we've had a number of the figures from the Stunticons coming out, which have taken up a lot of the space in that line. We've had a couple of recolors and retools being pushed out in the Velocitron 500 series, and a large number of reuses of previous molds. So ultimately, if we look at the entire Legacy line, I feel like it's only just getting started. We're only sort of halfway through it. And if it is the case that Hasbro are launching Evolution now, which they should do, but maybe not now, are they going to give up on the rest of the line? Are we going to have that scenario we had with Titan's Return, where we were unbelievably hard-pressed to find in the UK the later waves of figures, especially those like the Leader Class, Octane and Blitzwing, the Deluxes, Aimless and Slugslinger and all the rest of those guys who were really, really hard to find. And the same happened again in Earthrising Kingdom. There was this massive slump off in terms of the figures that came out towards the end of the line. And it's something that Hasbro seems to continue to do with Transformers year on year. But ultimately, my question to you is, what do you think this announcement's going to be all about? And does it mean the end of Legacy? And what would you like to see from Evolution? Because obviously that's going to be the next Evolution step, and we can have some ideas as to what we'd like to see, as well as possibly dream a little bit. Now, the second item on Hasbro Week, which I mentioned before, is not really just for Hasbro, but it is affecting the entire toy industry and other industries too. It's all about sustainability. If we look into the geopolitical situation that's going on in the world right now, we've got a massive energy crisis, we've got global warming going on, we've got trees being cut down left, right and center, we've got plastic utilization and emissions at the forefront of our newspapers, and ultimately it's all culminating and leading towards a reduction in one-time use products, plastic, for example, and a push towards renewable energies, things that we can sustain for the future, for the improvement of our world for our children and our children's children. And now that's no bad thing, but if we start to apply this logic to our famous and foremost important thing in our lives, which is of course our families, our Transformers, then what's going to happen to our collections moving forward? Are Transformers still going to be produced in 5, 10, 15 or 20 years? Are we going to see a massive shortfall in the number of figures that can be released and a massive increase? And I know there have been massive increases already, but I'm talking 2 to 5 times the increase that we've seen already in the cost production of these figures, because they're going to be sanctions upon Hasbro and other toy manufacturers to reduce the amount of plastic use in their figures and also in the packaging. And we've always seen the packaging has been the first thing to be hit, and that's already been reduced. But could we go back to die-cast figures? Could we have complete die-cast figures? Would they be able to stand up? Would they be able to transform? Would we have rubber tires again? That would be cool, but would it mean the end of what we are seeing as the golden age of Transformers in the Hasbro world for today? And it affects 3P too, because if we look at the 3P industry, of course they're using a massive amount of plastic. Do we need to move towards the magic square root of having some sort of nylon plastic blend versus the traditional ABS plastic that's used by Hasbro and others? Or should we be looking at some sort of totally new, renewable kind of material? I don't know, silkworm entrails or something. You tell me. I don't know what the future brings in terms of 3D printing. Will they have a sustainable material that can be used for 3D printing that we can use to build our figures from? So this is something that is worrying or alarming me. I do think that Hasbro execs higher up, strategy leaders, should be thinking about this for the future. But is this affecting us today? Is that why we're seeing increasing prices? Is that why we're seeing reduction in plastic use for molds and reduction in sizes? Is it also why we're seeing cutbacks on certain figures in terms of what they can and can't do within a budget range? Or is it simply just to line the pockets of the shareholders and investors in Hasbro? Who knows? Maybe it's a combination of the two. I never thought that Hasbro was a very forward-thinking company, other than when the guys in the 80s went out to see the Japanese toy lines and brought home Transformers and created a brand out of it. In the last maybe 10 or 15 years, the only thing they've really shown some sort of focus and initiative towards is going into the movies. But on the flip side, you could argue that that's just copying Marvel, and so that was a guarantee. Anywho, my question to all of you is, what do we do about this? How do we encourage us to continue to have Transformers toys for the next 20 plus years? Because the brand is going to last that long. I can't see people coming off of the brand just because it's dying. I can see that this fan base is massively strong and it's growing day by day, and with more movies on the way, it's only going to increase. But at the same time, the life and blood of Transformers is the toy line. So if you eradicate that, then that will cause a massive fall off a cliff. Anywho, for another week, I've been Rohan on Rohan's Corner. I hope you've enjoyed. Back to the studio. What do you guys think? Is Hasbro still going to be making Transformers in 15 or 20 years because of the plastic issue? What will they do to get around it? Back to you guys. Back to the studio.
Transformers, Rohan's in disguise.